What's going on? It's Mulla and Oz doing a Saudi F1 race recap. So how did you feel the race went, Oz, on Sunday?
Yeah, to be fair, it was the start of the race was quite decent. Um, really good. Obviously, I was quite surprised that Alonso made the mistake when he parked, but then obviously after watching all the recap and stuff like that, um, from the low center of gravity and everything that he's got, I can understand how he made the mistake. Because obviously, you think a driver with his experience should be making a mistake like that, because obviously you just custom yourself at the start of the race.
Yeah, no, but what's that? This that's the second race in a row, the second week. Because it happened first race with Ocon. He was um also got found guilty of the same thing. So it was
Yeah,
kind of interesting to see that they've taken a proper hard stance now against the um, box lineup.
yeah, but
But it
yeah, it
was
was fun.
no one say so. It's interesting to see now that it seems like there's a zero tolerancy.
Yeah,
So it's good to see that there's some kind of consistency. But it's going to be interesting to see how long they continue doing this for. Because on the naked eye, it didn't look like there was anything wrong with the way he lined up.
yeah,
And then obviously you see when they show it from the backside, it's like okay, yeah, he was quite far over.
yeah.
But
How much do you think he gained from being that far over?
on a different track, I would say possibly you might just get that slight bit more grip.
Yeah,
But with Saudi, I don't think it's the same kind of thing. I think it's because it's a street circuit and it's still relatively a fresh track. I don't think there's really much advantages to really gain.
yeah,
And then when you actually look at it, even off the start, there wasn't much of an advantage gained.
yeah,
It was very much Perez had the better start, even though I think when they checked the second reaction, I think Alonso's was better, but I don't think there was much in it.
yeah,
So it was very interesting to see. But again, I think it's what racers want, drivers want. They want the consistency. So it was good to see that they followed it up this week like they did in the previous race with Ocon.
yeah,
But the only thing I would say was when I was watching the race, and obviously you hear about the penalty, is that they was consistent with the time of the penalty. So obviously it's a 5 second. But then it was interesting when it come round, obviously him doing the pit, and then you had there may be another penalty
yeah,
for the whole car touching, which obviously was even more interesting because the same thing happened to Ocon previously.
yeah,
But obviously, as we found out, when you actually see the race thing at the end, it changed because the rule was a very gray area. One
yeah.
second, I'm just gonna bring in Mr. A quickly.
Cool.
Mr. A,
Yo,
what's going on? So right now we're just talking about the consistency with the penalties on with Alonso for the rear jack. So we was just talking about how consistent the ruling's been so far this season.
okay, yeah. But it's a bit 50-50, isn't it? So it's only been two races so far.
Yeah, no.
Uh,
So it's good to see consistency with it, though. I'd say because obviously normally we would then be moaning, "Oh, it wasn't consistent," but the penalties was the same. So for the same bit where he was over in the box, you got the 5 second penalty, which was consistent to the week before, the race before. Then obviously, but it's interesting. Like I say, it's a very interesting one because you also have the issue of both teams was accused of touching the car before the penalty was served. Although in this case, it was then proven there was no advantage gained. It was just the jack being there.
yeah, yeah, that's what he was talking about earlier. Still, yeah,
So I feel like I said, I want to see how they're going to shore up that rule for the next race because again, I do think it is an area where with the consistency, I think we could see it more
yeah. I
coming into
personally,
play.
I personally don't see a problem though. Like if you have like the jacks ready or whatever, but they're not touching the car, I think that's fine. Because
But I
there's
thought,
nothing gained. There's nothing gained or lost though. There. See what I'm
yeah,
saying?
I thought there was nothing. Well, in my like opinion, same as you. Even if they touch the car, if they have the 5 seconds that they can't do anything while they're touching the car, that's still like the penalty. They're not doing anything. If you just move something to touch it before you actually do anything, you still do the same pit time,
Exactly.
don't
Yeah.
So
you?
my thing is, obviously, no one's actually worked on the car. You're just moving the pieces in place. So it's there, but no work's been done. So, like I say,
Yeah,
it's very interesting to see the consistency because, like, when I think it was when it was in the pit lane bit after the race, and obviously they went to Aston Martin, they was like, "Well, we're just looking at it because we think there may be an argument because we wasn't actually working on the car, and the rule states." Working on the car, it doesn't actually say you couldn't have the jack there, which I found also to be very interesting and very grey in the sense that you've left room for interpretation on that rule.
yeah.
Yeah, that's something that they're gonna have to go back and look over.
Yeah, no, so I think they've said by the time Australia comes round, they're basically going to review that particular article in the things to
Oh,
basically shore it up. And I think going forward, there will be. I don't think you'll be able to do the same thing in that sense of having the jack there. So, like I say, it's very interesting that they've already said they're basically going to review it.
I find it crazy because, like we've just said, you don't gain anything. You've still got that 5 seconds when you can't
But
do
then,
anything.
what I found interesting though, we didn't find out about that penalty potentially until like a few laps before the end, where they then told Russell he's probably going to have a penalty. Make sure you stay within 5 seconds. Because then, even at the time, I even said to my son, like, I don't think it's going to be a 5 seconds. So why ain't they telling Hamilton to push? Because surely it's going to have to be a 10-second penalty like last time.
Yeah,
And it was just very weird that Hamilton never got that message that push just in case that there's a penalty given. But
yeah,
then I've also found it a bit weird, and it's the one thing I hate about Formula One, where you have that pending, and then a man's gone up to the podium, collected it, and then he's come off the podium, then he's lost it because then Russell did the third place press conference, and then by the time he's finished that, a couple hours later, it's like, well, we've heard what they've said, and now Alonso's back in third. So I do think it's something that could be tweaked and possibly looked at to basically make that part clearer to the fans as well.
yeah. I think though with Formula One, they do enjoy that sort of bit of chaos after a race when things like that happen, because
Yeah,
it
absolute
creates
chaos.
headlines, doesn't it?
yeah, it's a bit of excitement as well.
It
Yeah,
does because I was still sitting waiting around. I'm thinking, oh, bro, like this is gonna take a while. Like he's going to the steward's room. I think by that point I'd sat down at. I thought, nah, it's probably gonna stay the way it is. And I think I checked back like 20 minutes later, and it was like, oh no, I think I went on Twitter and I saw on Twitter Alonso's reinstated. And I'm just like, okay, this is just crazy. And then it was funny because the following morning when I was out, obviously the Metro, it must have been the first print because obviously they had Russell as being the third place, and I was like, not even they caught the story in time to
yeah.
rerun the press.
Yeah, that's jokes though.
But I
So
do
who was your driver of the race then? Who?
see. I gave it to Max only because of all the overtaking. Because
Yeah,
other than that, I probably would have said it was easily Perez for the way he actually handled the race.
yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
because
no one saw him really.
see, and the only reason I didn't give it to him because he was in front, and let's be clear, like once he got beyond the first two corners, we didn't see him again really in
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
Like the car just pulled off. It's so clear of everyone that it was just like he really was in a race of his own.
yeah,
And then you had Max literally coming through the field, and but it was interesting to see because I found it interesting with the tire strategy from Ferrari because they put Leclerc on the soft. And I thought maybe Red Bull to begin with may have done the same because they would have had a fresh pair of soft tires with Max obviously going out in Q2. So I thought they may have gone the same route. So who was your driver today?
let me say.
Oh, you don't want to
I
say?
think I I'd agree with you, to be honest. You know, I'd say Verstappen as
I,
well, only because of all the overtaking they did.
well, I know why Oz don't want to say.
I'm joking now, man. You know my prejudice towards Max, but even I have to admit he was the driver of the day. You can't deny that. He did really well with the overtaking that he was doing. And like obviously there's been previous seasons where sometimes Max in that position, you just worried that he'd like
I,
force it.
yeah, I thought he would get more embroiled in different situations in that
Yeah,
race
yeah,
because obviously you don't know what's going to happen with the field, and it was quite interesting because especially in the first lap, I think the two McLarens come together. But I was thinking, with him being so far back, he has to avoid any kind of contact in the thing.
yeah,
Otherwise, it could become a difficult race.
yeah.
But then when he was it behind? I think it was behind the Hasses that he was stuck. I was just thinking, hopefully he's not stuck there too long because if he stuck there too long, it really could affect the race strategy that they had. But then he just started piecing it up nicely. But what I think really spun that race though was the safety car.
What are your thoughts on the safety car? Because it was a weird one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I personally didn't think that they needed it. They could have used a
No,
virtual safety car, if
so they
anything.
could have, but what they were saying in the race was the way the radar was, the tracker picked it up that he was actually on the
Yeah,
track.
still on the
So,
track. Yeah,
so when they deployed it, they was basically using the tracker thing. But in my head, I'm thinking, you guys have all these cameras. You have the cameras on the car that everyone can press the red button and use. You mean to tell me you lot couldn't just quickly look? Oh wait, no, look, he's not on the thing. Do the safety car because he was in a safe position. It was just unfortunate. But then I think had Red Bull probably preempted it being a full safety car, I reckon they probably would have pitted Max at that point because he was closer to the pit lane, and he probably could have come in and then got out ahead of the rest of them with them all going round essentially. So he would have been in a better position on the first one, but obviously in the end it worked out where they could just double stack, and yeah, it was interesting. But like I said, I think again it was an area where you could say you could have used your tools and saw the safety car wasn't needed. But I was a bit disappointed though because I thought up until that point, even Stroll, I'm not a Stroll fan, but he was having a good race up until that point.
Yeah,
Because I think this year, I really think we're going to see a nice push from Aston Martin.
yeah,
And I think they're actually here and they're going to trouble. They're going to shake that top three up.
yeah. They're definitely looking strong. It was interesting hearing all the comments about how fast Red Bull are, and a lot of it to me seems like when people are saying how fast they were, it's like they've done something like that's not right to be this fast. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the
Did
vibe I
you?
got.
It was Hamilton's
do you know what
comments
the
that
worst?
surprised me.
Do you know what the worst thing is? Well, do you know what that remind me of? Of the Seb era, fam, when
Oh, the
everyone was
Seb
just hate. Yeah, everyone's just hating on Seb. Like
No,
they're
it
just
was
trying to
interesting.
find way to like put Red Bull down.
No,
Yeah,
even in the last few years, like was it not last? I think it was the season where he Max came second. Was it second or he end up teetering off like near the end? But they was complaining about parts on the Red Bull car at the start of the season. Then Red Bull had to change parts. I think it was like the wing and stuff they had to change.
yeah,
But it was
What are you
just
talking about?
interesting to see that obviously again they've got the baddest of engineers in Adrian Newey. Like he
Yeah,
knows
he's a
how to
top
do a car.
designer.
yeah,
He's a
Like,
top
and I
designer.
think with this car, I don't think they've changed much from last year, which is
yeah,
what I think is the big bonus. And I think the extra bit of money they obviously got for winning the constructors does go a long way. Which is why I say even for Aston Martin, the way Seb performed, like I was saying with Mr. A the other day, the way he performed like the second half of the season, those points that he picked up have proved very beneficial for them for this season.
yeah,
And you can see it in the car, which is why I know, even though it's not showing now, you know Mercedes at some point will come good because it is a Mercedes engine that they've got, and they are looking. So I think Mercedes issues though with it is because they've gone for that no side pod thing again, haven't they? So
Yeah.
once that changes, I reckon we'll probably see more. Because I think for my prediction this week, I think I picked Russell to actually podium in this race
Yeah.
because I did
What, in
expect
Australia?
it. No, for Saudi, I picked him for
Saudi.
Saudi. Yeah, I
Oh.
did pick him to get a podium place in Saudi. I think I picked Verstappen, maybe Perez.
I didn't.
Or
I had the
Alonso.
same as law. I had the same as the Bahrain,
Now
like
see,
in the exact same order as well.
you know it is because I recorded it before they did the testing. I just thought Mercedes, with it being a street circuit, might look a bit stronger, but I did obviously still have Aston Martin in and around. But for some reason, I'm going to be honest, I was expecting Perez probably not to be as strong again in this race. But obviously, I think he's going to be here, and he's actually looking like he could cause some problems.
Yeah.
For,
Before I
for the
segue
team.
to that, do you remember when Braun had that car that was like miles faster than everyone else, and they used to
Braun?
just do you remember
You know the funny thing with that is because that's what Mercedes ended up being.
that?
That's
Yeah.
the thing. So because I even say with that, like they were strong and they come into it, and I think Mercedes was always that step ahead of everyone because of that. And I think once the gap got closed to how it is now, it's made it a bit more interesting. But I think because they're not number one, I don't think they're coping with that in a sense. I think it's now trying to adjust. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, when Braun did it, obviously Jensen Button loved it because obviously it got him his world title. Because let's be honest, put him in any other car, that world championship don't happen.
Yeah. But they didn't get the same stick that Red Bull have got when their car's been faster. Like nobody was like thinking
No,
as
it
much
is. I
about it.
think because the drivers they had, I think it kind of helped. Whereas I think if a Red Bull was like a Perez and a Leclerc or something, I don't think people would moan as much. But I think because there's now a history with Max and people always bring up the way he won the first world title, like I think there's always going to be that bit of needle because it's Max in the car.
But then
Whereas
Seb got the same thing, didn't they? Because I
Yeah.
know like a lot of people who ended up saying, when Seb went to, was it
you know the
Ferrari?
interesting thing,
People
yeah,
like
he went to
started
Ferrari.
like
The
people like I
interesting
like
thing
him
with
now that he's
Seb,
a
though,
Ferrari.
No, I agree with you
was
there, Oz. Still,
no, it was, but because I think the interesting thing was everyone accused Red Bull of making Formula One boring, but I always bring it back to his first world title. Everyone kind of overlooks that how great that first world title was, because going into that final race, he wasn't the guy. It was all the focus was pretty much on Webber v Alonso to who's going to be the champion, and I think because they were so focused on each other, they forgot about Seb, and Seb was just able to come through and just take the title from both of them.
Yeah.
So I think then obviously they went on to be very dominant. And again, it's like even the Michael Schumacher era. Everyone accused it of being boring when Schumacher was dominating. I'm not gonna lie, I hated it when Mercedes were dominating, but
Bro, it's never ever bad when your Don is dominating. When
no, but
Louis
that's
was
what I'm saying.
dominating.
It's never bad, but
Yeah.
I was hating that whole period.
I hear
I'm not
you.
gonna lie. I complained like the first few seasons that Mercedes were just eating everything, but I think that's because I was just hating on Lewis still.
Yeah. To be
Yeah,
fair,
I'm not gonna lie, I was hating on Lewis.
I do understand the reason why he's disliked or why people dislike him, because a lot of the, like going through it, he's changed the way he drives or whatever, and he complains about stuff that he does himself. Do you know what I mean? And the way he treated his ex-teammate Bottas, again, I think a lot of people really disliked the way their
The way
relationship
it's
was
because
and that
he
was
got that
handled.
Michael Schumacher treatment without it really being the Michael Schumacher treatment.
Yeah.
Like knew he was number one. Because even the other day when they was basically telling Russell to let Hamilton by him, Russell was like, "Nah,
Yeah.
get off me on the track."
Yeah, that obviously showed that Mercedes has some pace behind it somewhere though.
No,
The
but
right
I think
direction.
I think Russell is the one that's going to carry that team again.
Yeah.
Like, no disrespect to Lewis, but I think his days as being that number one guy are done.
I was
Like,
gonna say there
he'll
was
be
a
able to put
race
in a
last
race.
season that showed me that there was a race that everybody raced, and after the race, Hamilton looked tired, bruv. Like Verstappen jumped out the car, he looked. I'm not saying fresh, but he looked like he could carry on going. Hamilton looked done, bruv. You know,
Like,
like
I think his love for the sport is what's keeping him there. But I don't feel it's a bit like Vettel. It, for me, it's got that same thing. Even with Alonso, you're not that guy, but you
But
can
you got the
still put a
experience.
performance in.
Yeah, you
yeah,
got the experience that the team needs.
Yeah, and I think Russell is, even though it's not never going to be said, I do kind of feel the team is moving towards Russell in a sense.
Yeah,
Because
do you know what?
even
It's because he's the
after
younger driver, though,
practice,
isn't it? If you think
yeah,
about
but
it,
even,
I think Lewis really has only like 2, 3 seasons max left in him. I
I'm
don't
not
see
sure
him
if
going
it
past the
was.
third season.
No, I think it might have been after qualifying, and Lewis is like, "Oh, we had different setups," and obviously he's kind of went for him, and mine didn't. So as I think, and he drops little things in where you think, "Oh, like you don't really feel like the Lewis of old." Like I say, I think he's still gonna race. I think we'll see another season where he doesn't win a race again, and I think there'll be the odd circuit where he does show up, like Brazil, Silverstone. There'll be the few races where I think we'll see him pop in with a performance. But I do think personally, like his days of being number one is kind of gone. I think the newer guards coming through, like Max, Charles, Russell, but like I say, so it's going to be interesting because
yeah.
even when you hear him with his, like the way the Red Bull just passed me, I've never seen a car that quick. Even when we were dominating, like that's the quickest I've seen a car, and it was. I know he didn't try to defend, but it was with so much ease that it wasn't even worth attempting.
Nah, there
Yeah,
wouldn't
he
have been
did.
no
Yeah,
point
yeah,
in it.
he did get past him pretty quick, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what? Because
I think
as I was
Russell was the
watching,
same, wasn't he?
yeah,
He
but
got
as I
this.
was watching the race, like I was even saying to my son, like, oh, he's gonna get him probably this lap. Obviously, I'm watching the times in between, like how quick he's closing the gap, and I'm like, no, he's really closing this gap pretty quick. So that Red Bull was extremely fast,
Even
and
Alonso didn't attempt to stop him neither, which is yo, that must
Alonso
like
is usually that guy you'll see.
as a racer, bro, that must be so
Yeah,
hard, you know.
he's a wily guy. That Alonso side. He knows all the tricks, bro.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think to Perez and Verstappen and the extra bonus point for the fastest lap? Because that caused a bit of a
Well, me and Mr. A was talking about it yesterday, and I was like, even with the problems that both was that Max was obviously saying about, it's incredible to see that even at that point in the race, he still wanted to do one, not only just get the fastest lap, but the fact that he was then able to get the car to do it was a credit in itself because
Yeah, because he was
you could,
complaining about that car a lot towards the end of the race.
yeah,
yeah,
he
and you
was,
could
yeah.
see there was a lot of issues because I think there was a few laps before, might have been within some point in the last 10 where both him and Perez went across like the little off-road bit, like they both went over,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
just missed the
followed each
corner.
other.
So it's kind of interesting at
His
that point.
engineer cracks me up though, because like Max will say, "Oh, I'm feeling this, or this is the problem." It's like Max, there's nothing there. Like the way
Yeah,
he just shuts him down.
but I think it's difficult. Obviously, if as the racer, you're feeling what's in the car, and obviously the engineers see the data,
Yeah,
and I do feel at times the data can't tell you how it's really feeling though.
yeah, true.
Because when you black spot your tire, obviously you can see it has the effect. But I just think, yeah, now with them two, I think this is Perez season. Because I was even saying to Mr. A the other day, like I was like, because I think it was, I see an article, I think it was on Sky, and they was basically saying they'd be surprised if Lando doesn't have like a get out clause if McLaren don't do too well. And I was like, depending on how Perez does, I could see them possibly trying to poach him. But then Mr. A was like, yeah, but if Perez has a good season, Red Bull will just keep him. And I think because he is up in his last year, I do think I'm now more inclined to go with Mr. A's theory that we'll probably see a lot better Perez because he's going to want to stay in this car.
Yeah.
And I think
And he does bring a lot of money as well to Formula One, fam. You got to
he
think, like,
does. And that's what
pretty
I
much
think
the
is the
whole of
big
Mexico
bonus.
back him.
But I think that performance we saw on Saturday, even from qualifying the pole lap, and then even just the way he raced on Sunday, it's a driver that's got like a hunger there. But because of his
I was saying to
personality, you don't
myself as
see it.
well, like, when he won that race, I was thinking, like, yeah, Mexico are partying hard today.
100% they were.
I'm
Because
telling you, like,
100%,
they've been waiting for a win for Checo.
because 100%, I would say, yeah, if it's a weird one because obviously Max will be, regardless, he'll be the number one driver. But I just think Perez now, I think he's gonna have that hunger because both qualifying sessions he's done good, both races he's done good. And I do genuinely think if it wasn't for Max coming through the grid, he easily would have won driver of the day because it was a phenomenal race from him. So it would have been interesting how that vote would have gone if Max didn't have to come
Yeah,
through the
yeah,
field.
yeah. I think he'd have to finish outside the top three though in order for Perez to have got that.
Yeah, but then it would be interesting. Would Perez have won the race if Max was closer to the front? Because that's what I was questioning. Because I was like, he got a big gap over Verstappen, but then at a point, I think Verstappen kind of just eased off, and I think Perez eased off. But I feel we're gonna see some interesting battles on certain circuits between them, which
Yeah,
is going to be
100%.
I'm not
interesting.
gonna lie though, I feel like that Red Bull has another engine mode that all these other cars don't have.
There's
Because
definitely
that car
because
like
where
was a
was
bit
it?
too quick, fam.
Good. I'm just gonna put some up now. I think look, yeah, so Verstappen was 5 seconds behind, and then Alonso come in at 20 seconds behind the thing. So there was still 15 seconds between him and Max. So it's interesting at how crazy the pace is of that car.
Yeah, 100%. Even I think is it Martin Brundle who was saying he was hoping once Verstappen got like thingy down, it would be more of an exciting race or something like that because he just expected it to them for them to breeze through. So him getting dropped down and having to come through the pack made it more of an exciting race than it would have
Because
been.
even for Leclerc to come through as well from where he was, it was interesting viewing.
Yeah.
But even that Ferrari looks very much off the pace as well, though. So
Why are
that's,
they struggling? I thought they'd be doing well, you know.
I think, losing the constructors the second place the way they did last year, that probably still has an effect because then obviously heads rolled, and then it was I swear it was Leclerc in the race. He started complaining about something. Well, why didn't you tell me that?
Oh yeah, it was
It's a strategy thing, man. It's always Ferrari. That's their curse. They don't know how to strategize.
Yeah, so it's
yeah.
interesting. Even dropping my mind, you lot still got them issues there. So it was, like I say, it was a very weird one because yeah, it was because where did he finish in the end? Well, they were sixth and seventh.
Yeah.
And look, even them, like Sainz was 10 seconds behind Russell, and Leclerc was nearly 20 seconds, nearly 18 seconds off of him.
It was something to do with what Russell did, and literally they told him like too late. They were like, "Oh, Russell something something," and then they said
He's
push, and
like,
he was
oh
like,
yeah, why you only telling me this now?
"Yeah, do you know what I mean?" It was
It was
like,
interesting. The strategies, I would say, have become very interesting in Formula One. And I think if you don't get it right, as we've
you
seen
get
with
punished.
Ferrari especially, it's definitely punishable.
Yeah, 100%. You get punished.
That's the Ferrari curse, though. They don't have to strategize. They've had problems with strategy for a while now.
Like it's like I say, they're proper. I don't know what goes on over there. It's just a very weird team situation there. Like I felt in the first race they got things right when they didn't send Leclerc out after the lap to keep the set of tires. Wait, and then it backfired because didn't he stop on track in that race anyway?
Yeah.
It's just like when you actually
Nah,
think
Mr.
about
A is right. The curse, bro. They're just
it's
cursed.
it's a terrible curse that's going on over there.
Yeah.
It's
Because
going to
some
be
of the things that
interesting.
they started to try to do last year for any other team would have worked, but for them, it just seemed to just all go wrong whenever they like
And I feel the car's
made a
gone
decision.
backwards.
Yeah, it has.
The car's not come forward this year. Like I say, I definitely think Aston Martin. I think they're gonna dislodge Ferrari because I think Mercedes will stay good, and I think
Yeah.
Ferrari is gonna get
And they and
dislodged to
Mercedes
Aston.
as well, innit? They still got their upgrades coming through, like for like the next what 6 races
Then I
or
think
something, innit?
Mercedes was saying, like I think it was like 6 or 7 races in, or I think it might have even been up to the ninth race. The car should be where they want it to be, which even then I think still a bit wild that it's going to take you so long to get there. But that's why I kind of liked how they just did the one round of testing.
I do think
Yeah,
though, like you mentioned earlier, the problems that they seem to be having with with the car and what the drivers are saying, and the team in general seems to be having a problem, might cause them problems. Because like Red Bull, we've just discussed what we think would be an issue, and it would just be the two drivers racing against each other. I think the management or the team, they won't have an issue internally, whereas Mercedes possibly could be going that route from the
Well, just based
frustrations that
off
I'm seeing.
the last race, when Russell was like, no.
Yeah,
But I like that he said no because when you actually looked at it in long term, Hamilton was on the faster tire, but couldn't get that performance.
yeah.
So, like I say, it was very interesting to see that kind of concept. So yeah, that's I'm just hoping next race, as much as a Red Bull fan I am, that it probably is a bit closer in terms of the way the grid look. Because okay, again, as a Red Bull fan, I'm not going to complain about the big distance in winning because I think in my case, well, we did what we were supposed to do. Our job's done. But it's if that continues, it's just going to look mad. Although I do need to hope Max loses like another 4 races because I've got a
oh,
bet with son. So £100.
I watched that.
Finally, do you think they're going to win all the races? Because someone was saying that they think they could win every single race. Red Bull
Well,
could
my
win.
son thinks Verstappen can win 20 of them,
Oh yeah,
and I said if that happens, I'll give him £100.
Was it like 21 races left?
Yeah, so I need 4 more, 3 more. I need 3 more. Like, and as much as it pains me that I want him to not win all races, I think I went more reserved, and I think I said like 13 or 14 race wins this season. Like when there was a possibility that he could have won on Sunday, I was thinking, yeah, I kind of need it to stay the way it is.
I hear ya. What are your predictions for the next race then?
What was my prediction for the next race? One second.
Oh no, I'm excited about this track though. The fact that we didn't get to go there last year and the year before.
Yeah,
I miss
What
Australia.
have I got
I'm not
for...
gonna lie, I
yeah,
like that track.
yeah. I do as well. To be fair,
Surprisingly,
For me, that is a track that has to be in the Formula One calendar.
yeah.
so obviously because I did mine based off of pre-Saudi, I actually predicted Charles to win this race.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
You think?
bearing in again, remember I said I did this before Saudi. Me and Xavier did like so. Me and him are gonna do like a video like every 3-4 races where we'll predict like the next 3 races where we think like the podiums will be, and obviously Australia being right in the middle here, I was like maybe Ferrari might, So I backed Charles to win this race, but having seen the last race, I'm just like it's kind of hard to bet against Red Bull. But if I'm going with my predictions, which I'll stick to, I've got Charles, Max, then Perez.
Man,
Fair play.
So I'm gonna stick to my original prediction, even though I know it's not happening.
Yeah.
What have
You
you
never,
got for the?
you never know, bro. These things, it's a mad sport, blood.
Yeah, but again, at the time I did it, I wasn't expecting him to take grid penalties neither.
Yeah, true.
Like,
What you say, Mr. A? What's your prediction?
No, I'm gonna go Verstappen, Sainz, and probably Leclerc.
And play the Ferraris to come back.
Yeah.
they need to.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do actually. To be fair, as
The
much as
reason
it
why I say
pains
that, I say that just to make for it to be interesting.
yeah, I hear. I'm gonna go Max, as much as it pains me, and Perez, and then Alonso. Same again. Same.
So I think it's gonna be interesting. Like I
But I
say,
will say, sorry, but I will say, if Ferrari have any problems, I do think Perez and Alonso will be there to pick up the remaining pieces.
Yeah.
So they're gonna
I even,
have
I'll even, like I
they're
say,
gonna have
I'll
to have
even
a
throw
spot on
Russell.
weekend.
Russell, I'll throw into that too. Russell's gonna be that guy that's just there. He's Mr. Consistent.
Yeah, he is.
That's one thing I'll give him. He's very consistent with the way he is. But as we wrap up, let me just throw on the
Yeah, but
standings.
I don't think Mercedes. I don't think that they have like out and out pace to challenge most teams though.
They don't, but I just think because Russell is very consistent in the way he does things, I do feel he's always going to be in and around the mix.
Yeah,
But
because
again, I
he
think that's
was.
purely consistent.
Yeah.
And
They've not got the pace, but I think they can, like you say, they can be consistent, and they don't, strategy wise, they don't go too mad. They don't make many strategy mistakes, do they?
You know, the crazy thing is, I don't think they have a qualifying type car,
Yeah,
but the race day car
they
that
they got a
always
race
seems
day
to
car.
have always seems to be reliable in that sense, which is why I do feel he will always be there or thereabouts. And I do think we'll see over the course of the season, he'll outdo Lewis in terms of race finishes. I think Lewis will probably get the better of qualifying, but the race finishes will fall on Russell's side.
Yeah. Where
Like I
the
say,
days where they count
I
the
think
most.
he's a very good driver, and I think, like I say, if they don't tie Lewis down, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Norris ending up in that car alongside him. Because that's what I think probably is the long term plan. I think the long term plan would probably be to have Norris alongside him. But as we wrap up, let me just put the standings as they are right now. And thanks to a lovely fastest lap from Verstappen, we have a very interesting top three. See, look, even then, when you look at it there, Russell's what, just 6 points off of Alonso, which is going to be, like I say, them two will battle it out all season.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it'll be
I was gonna
interesting.
say though, I want to see Stroll though. I want to see him win some points. They don't have to be high points, but like 8th, 7th place, just so we
I think he was on
provide
course
him
to do
some.
that prior
Just so
to.
he, yeah, because I want Aston Martin to get like some good money for the next season.
Like I say, that's why they're my
see what they're gonna do.
I think they're gonna break that barrier. That's Ferrari's competition. I think Mercedes will still get second, and then Ferrari will be challenging Aston Martin for that third place. And based on the way the season is now, I think providing Stroll starts getting across the line, and it as long as reliable as they have reliability, it will be interesting to see the battle between the Mercedes, not the Ferrari versus Aston Martin.
Yeah, no, 100%. Looking forward to some of the battles that are going to be going on for sure, and the races, the drivers, and how they're going to handle the season and the competition that they've got.
Then I definitely, I think next race with it being Australia, it's an early rise, but I think we'll see a very interesting race down there. Again, if I don't stick to my way my prediction already is, I do
Wait, when
think
is the next race?
the weekend of the
Oh, so the same
first
man.
of April, 2nd of April. So probably about what 5 o'clock, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
It's gonna be a long day that Saturday, you know.
Yep.
I'm gonna
But
have to wake up early, watch quali and that, then go watch the Joshua fight.
yeah, no. But with that,
It's
let
gonna
me
be a long
end the
day.
recording. But we'll come back next time after Australia.
Take care, guys.
Peace out.
Alright,
In a bit.
good night.
Whenever.